Welcome to Beyond the Build, where construction, entrepreneurship, and family life intersect. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sean. Let's dive into today's podcast. In this episode, we sit down with two of our fabulous project managers, Greg and Nelson, for a deep dive into why specialized teams beats the general way of project management in construction, and how it's unlocked growth, quality, and work-life balance. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you. It's a fantastic intro.
Thank you. I worked on it and worked on it and worked on it.
I can tell Josh has been working on it quite a bit.
Thank you.
That announcer voice, yeah.
How's it going? How was the weekend? How's everybody feeling?
It's good.
Yeah.
Good. Baseball game for the kids.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Long naps after that, so it was great.
Nice. We didn't get long naps. We just got insanity with the rain.
Yes. Nelson does have a 2-month-old now.
Yep.
So he's not doing much these days. All right. We're very excited to have you two here. We're going to start with a little bit of your background. Greg, give us where you're from and how you ended up in project management.
Originally from California, the Bay Area, out of San Jose. Started construction right out of high school at 17. Just been doing that ever since, and project management was the natural progression of working in the field and working through the industry. Also didn't help that body started failing a little bit later in life, so felt like I wanted to get out of the field.
So started in the field. What did you specialize in, or did you specialize?
No, I specialized in everything. I worked for a termite company and then a general contractor as well. We did remodels and termites, so structural repairs, which included kind of everything, plumbing, tile, electrical, and then the remodel aspect of it, we handled everything.
Nice. So. And then transitioned into project management. Nice. Mr. Nelson, what about you? What was your journey to get into project management?
Born and raised here in Austin, Texas, baby.
Yeah. My 20 years coming up here. Do you know that?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to college, came back, started looking around for jobs, ended up working for a production builder. They did custom and production. They were all right. I'd say it was a good stepping stone. Switched, worked for another one, and then eventually ended up here with Skelly.
Awesome. So y'all both have experiences from other companies, other structures, production, custom, GC. So let's talk about the differentiators. So what does the specialized teams approach ultimately allow Skelly Build to do better than the models that you've seen in the past?
I would say it lets the PMs focus on the construction aspect instead of, I need to order 1,000 pieces of lumber, I need to order this and that. I can just focus on construction while somebody else is doing the ordering or whatever their job is.
Yeah, not having to wear all the hats at once definitely makes our job a lot easier. Now with the kind of introduction of superintendents, we don't have to be on jobs as well, day in, day out, making sure people are getting things done. We can take a more high-level approach to make sure everything gets addressed and taken care of and the project keeps moving forward.
I think operationally it makes more sense to have project managers wear less hats. Traditionally speaking, that's where most customers really get frustrated with their PMs, is that they can't get a hold of them or there's a lack of communication. And a lot of times in the background, it's not like the PM isn't working, it's that the PM can't facilitate all the hundreds of things they have to do at once and still keep a high level of communication with the client. And so the specialized teams allows a lot of that burden to get shifted to team members so that the PM can focus on a high level of communication and making sure that the job's built to a high standard.
Yeah, and I'd agree. I preach a lot about how in the regular sense of a GC, you've got one person selling, estimating, doing the sales contract, then executing the job, managing the subs, managing the materials, the timeline, and that's just a lot. And the specialized team concept came out of Diana thinking that it was too much, and if you wanted to grow and have a work-life balance and have a consistent high level of service, you'd have to break it up, and we'd have to become experts and focus on the specific area that you're assigned to, and that's where the specialized team concept came from.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to take on more than one or two projects at a time. Just having to deal with materials alone is a nightmare.
Yeah, deliveries, you got to be at one place, but
Yeah.
then you've got a couple other jobs going on. The problem is
Can't
there's
be
only one
everywhere
of
at
me.
once.
Uh-huh.
That's the issue.
Yeah, and then also sales, busy and during construction, then you got to go sell a different job, and that timing can be tough, and then just not work well.
Yeah, if you want to look good in sales, you have to be there 100% of the time. You can't say, oh, I'm busy for the next week and a half. How about I talk to you in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
That's not going to go well.
How do you guys communicate and ensure accountability when multiple teams are involved?
A lot of meetings.
Yeah, it's a
lot
good
of
summary.
meetings. Yeah.
Good communication.
Yeah, constant communication with the supers in the field daily, multiple times a day, depending on kind of where the project's at, and then having weekly meetings with the materials team to make sure that we're on track with ordering, and then always there's going to be fire drills associated with that as well when you get to certain points of the project or certain changes are being made.
Yeah, on a great team, it's not difficult, not that hard. Clear communication, lists, here's what I need, A, B, and C.
So let's kind of
Pretty smooth.
expand on those processes. So obviously we have a sales team, they sell the job. What is your involvement with them? And what does that transition look like from sales team to you to actual execution?
I love the pre-con process. We get involved early on the job, walk the job before it's sold, look at the scope, look at everything that needs to happen or that the client wants, and kind of put our 2 cents in. This is what they want. Okay, but you're going to have some construction limitations. You're going to have problems here and there. We need to plan to do this actually instead. That makes things a lot easier because then you can plan it right from the beginning instead of, okay, we want to install a 1,000-pound bathtub on the 3rd floor. Sounds good. Construction guy needs to be on site to say, wait, hold on, that's a lot of weight. Need some support there.
Do you have experience with 1,000-pound bathtubs?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Going into further than that, it's aside from the structural limitations, it's okay, what are the things that the salespeople aren't going to be thinking about? The logistics of getting that thing up and in there.
Exactly.
When you got to rent a crane, not everybody thinks about that a lot of times.
I think operationally having clear communication with our own internal team is just as important as clear communication with the client. Going into our processes, we make sure that we have a kickoff meeting between estimator and project managers where they go over the scope and the job in detail. The project manager then turns around and has a estimate walk with the client to go over the scope with the client and make sure that everybody is in fact on the same page of the work getting done. And historically, it's this communication or lack thereof that starts to frustrate any customer in our industry because so much can change between the time of contract signing and when the hammers actually swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And we have specialized teams, so we have different team members working behind the scene, but really the client experience, let's talk about that. During their journey through our pre-construction to construction, who is their main point of contact and when does that transition happen and how does that transition happen with all these people working behind the scenes?
Yeah, obviously during the sales process, their main point of contact is their estimator. They start to get introduced to us during the pre-con process, and then really once we get to our kind of guidelines and expectations, once we're about ready to kick the project off, that's when kind of everything kicks over to us. And then all main communication goes through us, and then any questions at that point go back to the estimating team if there's any clarifications that we needed. Them and the materials team as well, since materials team has been introduced and versed on this project as well at that point.
Yeah, what he said.
So what challenges arise from specialized teams and how do we ensure that our process makes the client experience the highest level it can be? Again, when we've got these different people on our job site, how do we give us examples of how do we communicate effectively? Maybe it's on the estimate or maybe it's in meetings behind, but is there some type of challenge on our process that we've got to work through our specialized team that the other model doesn't have?
Probably since you have a lot of different people wearing a lot of different hats, that you have to make sure to stay in communication with everybody.
Yes.
Just so that something doesn't get, from our perspective, if they had a conversation with materials or they had a conversation with the on-site super, that all has to get relayed back. So through email chain, CC'd, phone calls to make sure that nobody's dropping the ball. And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, we're doing this. Oh, but I told them we were switching and doing this. So that's where the point. You need to make sure that everybody's on the same page, communicating and staying in contact with one another, which is why we have so many new material meetings, so that things get caught, get discussed, and then discussing with your supers on site every day as well too.
Honestly, I don't think this kind of a strategy would work without computers. If this was 30 years ago, specialized teams, I don't know how that would fly, because it's a lot easier with Google Docs, weekly meeting, Google Meets. You can meet over the computer, telephone. Everyone can be on the same page so much easier.
Yeah, I think that what's really interesting is that a lot of people think that being a project manager is something that they can do. And as somebody who hires project managers, I can tell you that a very limited amount of people can do what project managers do. And that's because you're communicating at a high level from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep. And the lack of communication can be the difference in something going heinously wrong on your project. And excellent communication can make the difference of having a very smooth, well-run project. So a lot of times, 7 o'clock at night, you're laying in bed, you're like, oh shit, I need to do that. And oh man, I need to do this. And so it really never stops in the brain of a PM. And so you got to be a very talented person to be able to handle that kind of just onslaught of communication nonstop.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So walk through the last piece of the questions about specialized teams is going to be around the materials team. So you've talked about the materials team. Obviously they order materials, but how do they help you do your job better?
Like you said, they order all the materials, but more than that, they coordinate all the materials and confirm everything before they order it with the on-site superintendent. So if he needs to place an order, hey, I need to get 50 more sticks of wood. Okay, we can have the materials manager pay for that if I'm in a meeting, so that he can actually get that done that day and make the job site more efficient, instead of having to wait for me get out of the meeting with the client where I'm not taking phone calls and then, oh, okay, let me put the order in right now. Oh, it's been 2 hours, so now all the guys left the job already. Slows things down.
Yeah, they're the ones that are in a lot of communication, especially at the beginning of the job with the designers, making sure that everything is selected as it should be, inputting everything into Builder Trend for it to be approved by the homeowners so that they can then get ordered. And then in between all that, they're doing the research, getting the quotes for all the materials to make sure we're getting the best price possible for the clients as well too. So they do just about as much work as we do on the back end to make sure that things go smoothly.
Yeah, and then with the designers, a lot of times job gets designed very early on. I don't know, 6 months goes by, 8 months goes by. Okay, we're ready to order something. Now it's back ordered. Now it's discontinued. Now there's a war going on and you can't get items from that area. So then what? You got to reach back out, reselect, go through that entire process. It's a lot more than what people think.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research that goes into ordering materials that I think the common person really doesn't understand. Every last little spec and detail matters. And so when you're going to pull the trigger on a $20,000 tile order, there's a lot of diligence that's done to make sure it's the right tile, the right size, the right thickness. Is it rectified? Is it handmade? Where is it coming from? What's the lead time? And it just goes into the overall strategy of the project. And it's not really just pressing an order button.
No, they all think it's that easy. I can order my own materials. It's fine. I order things from Amazon all the time, so this can't be that hard. But yeah, electrical especially is where I see a lot of clients make mistakes, because they'll order something that needs a weird box, or it needs a different wiring than normal, and they don't read the specs at all.
So every Tuesday in our team meeting, we do thank yous, and Nelson, for the last God knows how many years, thanks our materials team every single week. So that is how important they are.
They're
to
great.
Nelson.
They are great.
All right, we're going to transition to the rapid fire questions.
Lightning round.
All right, first thing you notice when you walk into a home.
First thing I notice when I walk into a home, it's a lot of things, but I mean,
First
paint.
thing.
Probably paint.
Okay,
Paint,
Nelson.
flooring.
Flooring?
Yep.
Josh?
I actually noticed how well kept the home is.
I'm going to say I like the wall texture. I think that's an easy thing that immediately talks to the home. All right, Nelson, the best part of a job.
Best part of a job is closing it. Walking away at the end of the job. Everything's done. Everyone's happy. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Hope you have a wonderful life. Goodbye.
All right, Greg.
And we're out.
The best part of a job, probably when you start to close things up after rough-ins and rough-in verifications and knowing that you did your damnedest to make sure that everything is in the right spot.
For me, I think the best part of a job is when you get that satisfaction from really helping a customer out through something that they wouldn't have been able to do without your assistance.
Awesome. My favorite part is also rough-ins. It's, to me, the most important piece from our perspective, and I always enjoy the sight of the roughs. Most unusual thing you've seen on a job site?
Man, that's a tough one. I've seen a lot of strange things on a
Come on,
job.
8th Street.
Yeah, a bunch of weird construction-wise. Yeah, 8th Street had a bunch of old historic framed under the job. Yeah, there was a cistern, a giant water tank that was filled with water for who knows how long, 100 years, 50 years. That was a very unique job.
Oh man, I've been doing this a long time.
You end up seeing a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, just the kind of debris that gets left in the walls after things close up, especially on old homes, opening up and be like, that's where all their scraps of drywall went. Oh, there's a beer can from the 1950s.
Yep, I found some Coke cans the other day that were definitely placed there on purpose, perfectly clean.
Oh yeah.
Coke cans from the 70s.
My original boss had an entire, like his desk had a whole bunch of old beer cans that he found underneath the house, old ones that didn't even have the little pop-top lids on them. He actually had to go and crack the top of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one that Tiffany had where the tree was growing from the middle of her job site.
Inside,
inside the house.
Yeah.
It had been waiting for foundation work, and out of nowhere, just a tree just started growing right up out in the middle of the house. So that was cool.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing we found is we found some, in a historical home, we found some newspaper. That was what they used for insulation from World War II. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
All right, Greg, number one tip for homeowners going into a renovation.
Number one tip, if you can, get a designer or an architect.
You have to.
You have to.
Not a tip.
Yeah. And then, just make sure that you have a kind of a clear vision and that you got things picked out beforehand, because that's the help of what a designer and architect are going to walk you through, but that just makes your process go so much faster.
Yeah.
And try to be realistic with how long you think things are going to take.
I would say trust your construction company, especially going back to the guidelines and expectations meeting. We go through the whole emotional roller coaster of sometimes it looks like a ton is happening and sometimes it doesn't look like a ton is happening, but we're actually going through inspections or rough-in verification or something like that, and just trust your construction company.
There's always stuff happening, whether it's
There
at
is
a job
always
or
stuff
in the
happening.
background or somebody's always working on it.
Yeah, my number one tip would be make sure you have a very strong relationship with your spouse or partner. I have seen divorces happen throughout the course of a renovation. It can be straining on the relationship, and so it's really important that you've got your inner workings of your relationship dialed in before you let us into your house, because it can be very tough on people, the emotional roller coaster that they have to ride in order to get a remodel done.
Especially if they've been there for 20 years and they've got all the memories in that one room and, we raised little Jimmy right there and now we're demoing it out. So
It's
It's not only
Yeah.
that. It's when you run into the unexpected,
Yeah.
especially if it's, say, if this the house's first remodel, you're going to run into some unexpected things in the walls, in the floor, in the ceiling, something that's the unavoidable change orders that happen for things that are unforeseen.
Yep.
So my number one tip is trust, and I think embracing the pre-construction process, or what we call the planning process, because that's when I think the success of the job actually happens. If we can line out everything, the actual scope, get all the selections done as far as possible. As a fixed price builder, the more information we have, the better price we can give them and timeline. And so I think that trusting the process and trusting the GC, as Nelson said, to me would be the number one tip for sure.
Every month, business ownership teaches us something new about people, systems, leaderships, or ourselves. So please share one lesson, something that you've learned about a recent project.
Something I've learned about a recent project. Historic homes, you learn a lot. Some of it's specific to that house, but some of it's generalized. That plaster mix for the walls was pretty interesting. The masonry mix. We had to get an engineer involved to tell us exactly how to make historic masonry mix, because if you use normal masonry mix, it'll crack the bricks and pretty much destroy the walls. So yeah, that was a good thing to learn.
Yeah.
Interesting fact.
You're always learning something new from project to project, especially when dealing with the city. You get one project that goes extremely smooth, and the next one you get a different inspector or you get a different reviewer, and things seem to drag on and drag on. But I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the past few months is staying on top of anything having to do with Austin Electric, because they will drag their feet, drag their toes, and any one question that you have will get kicked down the road for a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good lesson too. Austin Energy. They could use a lot of improvements over there.
Yeah, I would say Lost Creek and Austin kind of annexed from the city of Austin, so now they're in the ETJ. And I think the learning lesson that we have gone through recently is that the ETJ, they weren't necessarily set up for the additional amount of permits that I think they got from this annex, and educating clients about the timeline of the ETJ permitting process and the requirements that they have specifically around the septic can extend that pre-construction process significantly. So that would, to me, would be a recent
Extended out months.
Yeah, months. So
Yeah, I think we could do a whole podcast on just the permit process. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of customers don't understand that even after doing this 20 plus years, we run into new scenarios almost on a daily basis of something that's required now that wasn't required then, or something that a particular inspector wants to see that other inspectors don't care about. And so I think in a lot of customers' mind, the permit process is a lot more uniform than it actually is.
I would agree, and to add to that, we always joke that they just had some learning lesson on something specific, and then they come out to all of our job sites and fail all the same thing. And so
If permitting was easy, they wouldn't have a profession dedicated
Right.
to expediting permit.
Entire
acquisitions.
companies where that's the only thing they do.
all right, what's a mistake that turned into a learning moment? Let's get a little vulnerable here.
I had a bunch of them.
Let's filter through the Rolodex here.
Yeah, I don't know which one I want to talk about, honestly. Mistake that turned into a learning moment.
Oh, I got just a recent one then. Yeah, knowing your kind of proper kind of way and process for paint application, especially if it's something that's had tons and tons of layers of paint on it. We just recently were doing painting of a whole lot of hallways and doors, and yeah, the application on the doors didn't quite hold up as well as it should have, and the paint started to kind of chip off and flake off pretty easily. So we had to go back, met with the rep from the paint store, and they gave us a solution. So now we're having to repaint some doors with a little bit different of a process. Again, another thing that I think always can be a sticker shock to some clients that I've dealt with for decades is the paint costs how much? I can do paint. That's not hard. But yeah, paint it's not easy, and it is one of the things that, like I said, people notice when they first walk into your house. The whole house can be beautiful, but if your paint job is horrible, it's going to be extremely noticeable.
I'm going to go with appliances. I've had a lot of difficulty with appliances. The specs say one thing, and then you get the appliance, and it's not exactly what the spec says. Or I've also had where appliance company tells me at the beginning, okay, here are the specs, and then come install day, oh, actually, this product got revised, it was discontinued and replaced, and here's the new spec book. Well, I didn't plan for that 6 months ago, so yeah, appliances have been a challenge. Everything, especially high-end appliances, everything needs to be in one exact spot. You can't just throw it behind the stove somewhere or behind the fridge somewhere. It's got to be in a very specific spot.
Yeah, I think operationally, mistakes for me have been in not integrating the team well enough and not having processes put in place to integrate our specialized teams. Thinking that the right hand is talking to the left hand can be a bad situation if somebody's not facilitating that. I've learned that there has to be an extra amount of effort that's put into the collaboration and making sure that all the teams are having meetings, communicating, and are on the same page with the client expectations.
I feel like people expect that from Austin Energy and bigger, like the city,
Yeah.
and it does not happen at all.
it's not.
No, this department doesn't talk to this department. And this
Absolutely
department doesn't
not.
talk to this department. Really? Like, it's all one entity.
They're in
though,
the
right?
same building.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, so I think a mistake for me is just in our EOS meetings, my main goal for 2026 is to listen to people. Josh and Diana have given me that directive for this year, and so a mistake is obviously not listening to people. And so that's what I'm trying to do better moving forward. So we've talked a lot about business, but one thing we care a lot here is people behind the work-life balance is really important to us. So let's talk about life outside of Skelly. How has becoming a parent, having a family changed the way you approach work and life in general?
It makes me more forgiving with people. I can really understand that everyone's going through their own thing behind the scenes. We meet on the job site, we talk about something, but after that, everyone goes home to something else. It may be a problem, maybe a relaxing home, who knows, but with young kids, it's not very relaxing. So we all got different situations.
Yeah, it makes you have to slow down quite a bit when you get off work and you got especially two really young kids that crave attention. Yeah, it makes it a little challenging, but it also makes you have to detach from the work when you get home.
I think for most family guys, it's patience. When you're raising a young family, you definitely have a lot of patience, which is certainly an attribute you want when doing a renovation. We're in our clients' lives for sometimes up to a year, depending on the size and scope of the remodel. And so it is a relationship at that point. Just like any relationship, you've got to have patience and be able to listen to the other side. And I think being a family person really helps encourage that.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, it obviously sacrificed work hours, and now I've worked the same hours, but it's not in one consistent chunk. It's spread between 3 chunks in the day. And so I would agree. It's also increased my patience with life and specifically them. So those are the 2 things I'd say. How do you balance work and life? Work and family life?
2 separate phones is a good start.
Yes, that I used to have one single phone, and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I had the one phone thing too, and I actually
Same.
like the 2 phone separation quite a bit.
I love the 2 phones. That's an easy way to do it. I think just personally, because I'll still look at my work phone from time to time when I'm on vacation or it's on the weekend, but it's not stressing me out as much.
It depends on the email that you get.
Yeah, I kind of disagree. Even if I get some bad emails, I'm like, okay, that's a Monday problem. It's construction. Nobody died, right?
Yeah.
It's solvable. So
I think
the
a
back of my
good
head,
balance for me is separating my attention. When I was younger, my wife would be talking to me and I totally would not be listening and just thinking about stuff happening at work, and that definitely affected our relationship. And so as I get older, I have to literally mentally turn my work brain off and focus on the things that are happening in my house and what's happening with my wife and my son. And
yeah.
it's definitely a skill that you got to get better at as you get deeper into the construction industry.
Yeah, I don't really have much of a choice once I get off work. My kids are wild and crazy. They both probably have ADHD and just are nonstop running back and forth, screaming, yelling, fighting. And then now that they're getting older, getting them into different activities and sports to keep them occupied and entertained. So that's, once you get off work, it's kind of, you go from one job, then you go to another job, and you just kind of got to switch that mindset of now, this is what I got to focus on.
Nice.
2 phones.
So I only have 1 phone, but I do have this app called The Brick, and it essentially blocks
Oh, nice.
anything I set. But so 2 times a day, I have it block email, texts, bunch of different apps,
Nice.
social apps, so that I'm present. So it
Sean, you're on
forces me.
Instagram?
No. No, I said social because I use Time Hop, which is not really social, but it can be. That's my my one, and then PGA Tour and sports apps, and it's not social, but it's entertainment that I use.
We definitely check our fantasy football in this group.
We do, which I won this year, by the way.
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
Cut that part out.
All right, what values are important to your family at home?
We try patience. and patience gets tried. Yeah, that's the kids try my patience, and Josh was saying that's kind of what being a parent teaches you, is to try to have more patience. I seem to have a lot of patience on job sites and at work, but when I get home, then
He does have a lot of
Too
patience.
much patience, in
then
Josh,
you
in
get
my
the-
opinion.
then you get the kids that yeah, they're not like good little employees. They don't listen.
They just don't listen.
They just don't listen.
I think for my family, it's hard work. I was always raised that hard work will get you places that people that don't work hard won't get them. And I've done a lot to put that into my son and work with that with my wife. And we get up every day. It's another beautiful construction day, and we want to work hard and get things done.
I think I'll get there one day, the hard work. My kids are just too young. Right now we're still on patience and not getting too upset when you drop the milk or
Don't
whatever.
get your way.
Yeah.
One thing we promote is be respectful, but it's hard because they're not necessarily respectful to each other or to us. But it is something that we continuously talk about.
At least
so-
make sure they're respectful outside of the home.
Yes, be respectful when we're in public.
Yes.
For the love of God.
So, guys, what's something about being a parent that has surprised you?
So, as everybody knows, I got 4 kids. I still think 0 to 1 is the hardest because your whole life turns upside down overnight. Your focus changes. You're responsible for this new baby, and you don't get much training. Sure, you get books, but they're not very helpful. And so just the surprise of your life, literally, the priorities totally shift immediately, and everything is scary, and they're sick. You don't know how bad it is. They've got croup. What the heck is that? And all these just issues pop up, and then they're not sleeping, so you're miserable. And your relationship with your wife is tough because who's going to get up and feed her? As you can tell, I've been through this.
Yeah.
But again, that to me was just the hardest thing, was just the switch that happens from 0 to 1. And then after you get into that mode, to me, it kind of made it easier, but it was just that first switch, and that surprised me the most.
So imagine 0 to 2. Yeah, it's life-changing. Everything you said is true. It forms a new person from the old person and starts over again, your entire way of seeing things. But it's good.
I think having to plan kind of your days, weeks, weekends, holidays a lot more than you would before. If you don't have something planned for the weekend or for a day off, then you're going to be miserable because your kids keep telling you, what are we doing today? What are we doing today? What are we doing today? I'm bored. What are we doing? And so, yeah, it definitely makes you kind of have to think ahead more about what you're going to be doing to entertain somebody else in your personal life outside of work.
Yeah, I was going to say the schedule, too, when you have young kids. Just keeping them on the schedule as best as you can. If you're aiming to go do something that day, then go do it. But, yeah, it's a challenge. Making them eat when they don't want to eat, they're actually hungry.
You know what they say, kids only really need to eat one big meal a week.
Is that what they say?
That's what my pediatrician said. You know what? He's like,
my.
they might not want to eat here and there all the time, but as long as they get a few good meals at some point during the week, then they're going to be fine.
I think becoming a parent was a surprise to me. 17 years later, now it's a surprise. I'm actually sad that I'm out of that kid stage. If you would have asked me during the kid stage, I was like, I can't wait for him to grow up and be my compadre in crime.
Yeah.
And now that he is getting older, I quite miss the days of the ADD running around and dad.
Well, yeah,
wants
because
to-
now you're at the point where he doesn't want anything to do with you.
yeah, I'm like, just talk to me for 5 minutes, please.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been entertaining to hear from our 2 project managers. We really appreciate your time and your insights and your expertise on our job sites. For those who listen, thank you for listening. We invite you to submit questions, follow us on social, rate, share, or subscribe. And that's it from this episode. Have a good one. Thanks so
guys.
much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now get to work.